I'm always wary when developers try to action up my beloved tower defense genre, throwing in first-person shooting, third-person brawling, or, worst of all, 4-player co-op. Ugh. The result is invariably a game that I want to like, such as Orcs Must Die or Sanctum, but that leaves me cold. It's never difficult to figure out what the developers do wrong. Action in the best tower defense games is about attrition, doing a gradual stream of damage over a long amount of time until enemies finally crumble under the onslaught. By comparison, enemies in shooters and brawlers should be eliminated in just a few hits, otherwise the developers risk destroying the flow of combat. It's generally better to stick to pure strategic tower defense. Allow players to build a labyrinth for enemies to charge through, then watch how effective their planning was. X-Morph Defense, no relation to awful game Morph X, thankfully, breaks all the rules I've just set out for the genre and still manages to succeed with incredible style. Who on earth would have imagined a combination of tower defense and twin-stick shooter could possibly work this well? X-Morph has a diabolical premise. Players control an alien consciousness assigned to the role of defender. Their task? Protecting the tech nodes that aliens set up to conquer one country at a time by covering the world with living metal. Humans, naturally, attempt to stop them with military might, and, as a result, a game happens. A short tutorial makes the incredibly intuitive controls clear. The player is in charge of an aircraft that can fight air and ground targets, as well as build towers almost anywhere in the game's huge maps. Rather than use a strict grid structure that players manually block off with towers, the aliens can run laser fences between two towers, blocking off paths while leaving the towers free to blast away at any troops that drive by. The name of the game is constant respecking. Before every mission, the player has to choose where to spend tech points, deciding which tower types and fighter abilities they'll bring into a mission. It's always good to have a variety of abilities on hand, since enemy patterns will change drastically from wave to wave. Players have unlimited time between waves to plan out their defense and alter enemy paths, which are helpfully laid out on screen. But once the enemies start coming, the action doesn't stop until one side is dead. Fortunately, tower building is incredibly simple. At any time, players can switch their fighter from combat to ghost mode, in which they're impervious to damage, move far more quickly, and can handle tower management. Players are encouraged to constantly adjust their tower setups. Each basic tower has a fixed resource cost. There's never a penalty for experimenting with tower setups and combinations, since players are fully refunded all energy they spent on a tower every time one is disassembled or destroyed. Even during a wave, it's simple enough, once all incoming aircraft have been destroyed, for example, to transform all AA towers into artillery to deal with the remaining tanks. The game isn't perfect though. Right now it's still a little buggy. I had a crash at one point, and there were a few levels in which enemies refused to spawn during a wave, forcing me to restart them from the beginning. Also, the scrap system is fairly player-unfriendly. In order to build towers, players need energy. They're awarded a little bit of energy for beating levels and destroying enemies, but if they want to succeed, they'll have to collect the scrap that falls when enemy units are destroyed. Unfortunately, this means transforming into ghost mode and sweeping a collector around battlefields. Since the scrap only lasts about 15 seconds on the ground, this gets frustrating fast. It's challenging but fair to ask players to manage a tower network and blast enemy fighters out of the sky at the same time. Giving them a third responsibility, especially one as vital as collecting energy, borders on the unfair. As much success as X-Morph finds with innovation, this is one place where the developers should have just stuck to tower defense orthodoxy and simply rewarded players for killing things. I haven't even talked about the bosses, all of which are fantastic and require the player to use high-level tower defense and twin-stick shooter tactics simultaneously in order to succeed, or the way players can use huge bombs to deform the terrain, both to destroy enemies and to change their approach paths. Here I am dropping a building on 2 super tanks. Every level of the game is packed with opportunities to create this kind of dynamic mayhem, and the game is a consistent delight as a result. The developers at X-Morph Studios have made a great twin-stick shooter and a great tower defense game, and then managed to combine them into a spectacular hybrid. This one deserves to be played by fans of either genre. Fans of both should consider it unmissable. I rate it the feeling of dropping a building on a tank out of 10. This review is based on a copy of the game provided by the publishers. I've been the Hidden Object Guru, thanks for watching. I'll see you back here for the next thing, but until then, au revoir.